Hey everyone. The junk skidder here, or the junk engine, is actually a Detroit 2-stroke, and that's how they're supposed to sound. So thank you, Canada, the great 51st state. Hi Mark. Hi Larry. Hi Logman. It is very foggy here today, and I've been waiting for it to clear up a little bit, but it's not doing that yet. But I don't know, do you guys want to watch some trees die? I haven't been here for a while, so I kind of forgot where I left off at. I think we'll start with this group here. Might have to flip the camera to landscape mode. I don't know how you do that. Hi, Steven. Hi, Central PA. Let me go grab a chainsaw real quick. I think I'll have to go cut that beech first to get this cherry down. Got a nice kicker limb there. Well, I kind of figured that was gonna happen. A lot of stuff to go through. That was a beech tree. I'm gonna go get the skidder and pull that down real quick. That's some beautiful cherry in here. So out of this tree here, get a blackened log or two. And looks like a couple of sticks of firewood. But today I'm just cutting and bunching, so too wet to do really any real skidding. If you guys have any questions about how I go about this or what have you, I'll be willing to answer them the best I can. I'll cut firewood out of those eventually, but I don't want to bore you guys going through all those tops. So, hi Kenny. Hi Brandon. We just started a couple of minutes ago, so. Hope you're doing well, Larry. Thank you for all your prayers and support. Hi Victor. This cherry here, on most cherries, I'll cut the sapwood to keep it from tearing, but just the way this whole front of the cherry is, I had to keep the hinge real narrow without going more than halfway through the tree to make my notch. But this, if you guys are wondering, most of the time, if you watch any of my videos, I cut the sapwood, so. It's a little narrower than I like to go on there, but obviously I just started this today, apparently. I find a full house to cut a lot faster and smoother in the flip. You guys are watching the what not to do today. Dynaho backhoe with a 2-stroke Detroit with a glass back on it. Boy, that sounds a little noisy. Oh, let's see here. Show you guys a little bit of the forest here. Here's a baby. Someone wants to do the math on this. It's almost 9 feet around. What's that converted to? Yeah, I do 99% saw logs. Saw logs, blocking, firewood. We do have there is a pulpwood market, but it's so far away, and by the time trucking's paid for, it's not really worth pulling it out. I mean, I'm probably looking at $100 a load. The firewood goes pretty well around here, though. You just gotta keep it straight. Yeah, Larry, I was hoping that the live feed was gonna work out here. I wasn't sure with reception and Wi-Fi and all that stuff. But from the way it sounds like it's working pretty well. Just debating where I want to go from here. I don't want to top in trees. Thanks for letting me know, Mindy, my wife. We have this huge one we could cut and probably push into the swamp. It's got used to have a big tri-top in it, but that broke off at some point. It's got 2 leads going back and that really gnarly cherry there. I do not get into the Humboldt cut too much. Usually my stumps are already low enough and it just makes it more difficult. It still froze up. Oh, that's good. It's from my understanding that this section of the woods hasn't been logged since the 1940s. Let's see here. 75 degrees sounds beautiful. It's been like 34 and rain all day today. I shouldn't say rain, but like a mist. It's just been never ending. We just had a couple inches of snow the other day. So 57, that sounds pretty nice as well. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to cutting cherry with just the 2 tabs. Especially if you think it's gonna roll off of something like it did here. If I'd have left that sapwood or a whole tab across, we probably would have slabbed that. I'm from New York in the woods. Let me know, you loggers and firewood cutters, what saws you guys like to cut with. I'm using my 661 right now. That's ported by Tree Monkey. He's out of Wisconsin. Scott is his name. And I've had this saw for a long time. And then I have a 500 and the skidder that he also ported as well. Yep. Catherine is my mother. Make sure you say hi to her. Say hi, Cat, with a K. Holy smokes. Hi, Logger Jason. I am working in Western New York. I'm just cutting and bunching today. It's been too wet to do any skidding, but it's a lot of cherry. So I'm pretty fortunate with that. I can leave it laying for a while. But it's supposed to dry up here, or start getting dry weather coming up here in the next week or so. So hopefully I can start pulling logs out soon. Holy smokes. So this skidder here, this is my buddy Tiny's. He's kind enough to let me use it. I got my skidder on another job. It's a 225D with a 353 Detroit. And my skidder on the other job is a 230A with a 453 Detroit. Hello, Mike. Those are good saws there, Sawyer Rob. Nice light power to weight ratio is amazing on them. I'm gonna mark this one out, get this out of the way. I had to cut that other one down for a hole to drop a couple others. There's a lot going on in these tops up here, so it's pretty difficult trying to get a hole made to get these trees to hit the ground, which is why you guys watched me hang up the first two. Hi, Mike. I use chain chokers as well. Not too many people, actually I've never seen someone around here use cable chokers. I've had a lot of you question me about using chain chokers, but that's how I was taught, was using chains, and you know, they're kind of sentimental to me from the guy that taught me how to log, so that's what I'm gonna stick with. There's the Tree Monkey 500 I was telling you guys about. So for lengths, most of my butt logs are 10 foot, unless they're smoking nice, and I'll just push them as far as I can. But other than that, I do 8s, 10s, and 12s after the butt. It just depends on how the log goes, so. Next time I do this, I'm gonna have to bring a cameraman with me. most of my logging around here, the skid trails and little spur trails, I call them, they're too narrow, or I shouldn't say too narrow, but they sweep around too much. And I try avoiding skinning up as many trees as I can, just because that ruins the whole butt value for the future logging. So I cut them off short. This one here, I got 2 8-footers and a 10-foot butt. But I cut them off short just to avoid skinning up trees. And is it more work for me? Yes. But for the future of the forest and the landowner, it's a heck of a lot nicer for them when they don't have to deal with the skin up trees. So, and also times when I'm making my skid trails, I look for beech trees or any other tree of less value to use as bump trees, because we're always going to have bump trees. Or if it's going to be a tree that I plan on cutting at some point. Hey, Chris. It tears it up pretty bad. This one's not as bad as my 230, but this ground isn't the best, so that's just one little spot there. Hey, thanks, Murdoch. That's a heck of a tree, eh? Yeah, it sounds more like it, 34 inches. I bet, Brandon. It's the thing with these old TJs too, they're all locked in all the time, so every time you turn, it's like a rotor tiller. Does anyone have any questions for me about anything? I'll cut this tree down over here and then I'll check in again. Sorry about the shaking and everything. And Ron, it depends. I've traveled up to 2 hours away before for a job. That was back when I was working with my buddy Alan. But I mean, it all depends, really. A little bit of red rot in that butt there. But this would be good saw logs. Sawyer Rob, how did you get so lucky with your wife? Well, my mom obviously prayed for a good wife, and then I did the same thing. You know, back in my early 20s, I was in a bit of a drinking phase and did a couple stupid things one night, and I decided that I needed to pray for a wife as well. And, you know, that's kind of the first time I reached out to God in a while. And along came my wife. Our first date was a snowmobile ride, which lasted 14 hours. And couldn't separate us since. So we've been through a lot. And I wouldn't trade our journey for anything. So that's just a little backstory about my wife and I. Yeah, you should, Brandon. Let me know and I'll tune in as well. Hi, Todd. Hope you're doing well. Yes, God is very good. For any of you going through hard times, I mean, put all your faith and all your trust in Him, and I guarantee it, you'll be walking out a new man. So, it's kind of funny how things work out sometimes, and sometimes we don't understand it when we're going through circumstances, but eventually there will be a light that shines, and it gives you an idea on why you went through what you went through. And a lot of times I find it's to help others pull through as well. So never be afraid. Keep trucking forward and always trust in God. Hi, Larry. Portville, New York. I'm not exactly sure where that's at, but same state. Hey, Shane. So, tough question. It kind of all stemmed back to when my buddy Alan and I were working together. Let me get this tripod set up real quick. We were contract cutting for a mill, and yeah, I had some close friends and other people asking me about logging as well, and we never really had time to do a bunch of private stuff. So they were kind of on the back burner when me and him were going contract cutting. And once he passed away, I mean, I did a few odd jobs here and there while we were still going when I could squeeze them in. But once he passed away, I took a little break from logging, and I started looking at all these side jobs I had, or private jobs, I should say. And I was going to get back into it. I looked for different jobs and this and that, and nothing looked appealing. This is what I love doing, so. But everything I get through word of mouth, believe it or not. I've been very blessed and fortunate with all the jobs I've had, and this job I'm on here is a little over 300 acres. I mean, it's not all huge trees like this. There's areas where um, it needs a 10% improvement, but then there's also areas like this where you got huge trees, and you gotta at least clear those out, or else they're not going to be worth anything in another 15, 20 years. So, but everything I have is through word of mouth, and I do everything for rate per thousand, or I just set a rate for per triaxle load of logs. So that's how I do it, and I haven't done any like marketing or put my name out there, trying to pick up jobs or buy jobs. Uh, Feeding 4 kids and a single income home is that's a lot of money in itself, to keep going. And we just don't have the money to buy jobs through foresters and that. So I've been blessed to do my own private thing. Hello, Sean. Hello, David. Oh, okay. So only it's a couple hours from here. Yes, I do have people that also stop by and have me do a walk through their woods as well. Um, I try to give people the closest estimated value is what I think, and um, so far, almost everyone I've cut for, I've done a lot better for them than they expected. So, but it's pretty amazing the amount of jobs I pick up from neighboring people as well. So, that's any of you guys in the logging industry or anyone that wants to get into it, I tell you one thing: you do the best job you can. You clean the tops up nice. You clean up your skid trails afterwards. That's what my dozer's primarily for, is cleaning up skid trails. You get everything looking nicer than it was before. I mean, granted, you're going to have tops and stuff laying around, but you do a good job on the timber sales as well, and you are guaranteed to pick up more and more work. Um, that's another thing, too, dealing with mills. I deal with multiple different mills, and I generally I have a whole pool of jobs pretty much, and if hard maple's doing really good, I'll go cut the hard maple and let like this cherry sale sit for a while until the cherry prices come up. So, or if the maple prices drop, and everything's by average, then I'll cut the cherry or something else. But generally in this area, hard maple is a pretty good is pretty good price. So, and that's why I focus on a big hard maple sale this winter. If you guys watched that winter logging I had going on there. Building a bridge across a small creek. So the best way that I have found is taking, you'll probably have, it depends on how deep the creek is really, but if you can take a couple, 16, 20-foot logs, whatever, probably 20-foot logs, and lay them in the middle of the creek, and then put your mats, you can get mats pretty much any mill or any construction company will have them too. And you lay mats depending on how wide the creek is. You lay the mats on top of the poles in the middle of the creek, and then you lay them on the outside banks. And that way, and I always tend to, when I do something like that, I like to get like 4 across, because if you're coming around any type of bend, your logs are more than likely to drop into the creek, and you don't really want to mud the creek up. So try getting like 4 across probably, and then you're pretty smooth sailing from there. And then afterwards, you pull the mats out and you pull your logs out, and the creek should be pretty well cleaned up. So the lumber market here, it depends on the mill right now. Some mills kind of fell off the face of the earth the past couple of days, and other mills are sticking with it. And actually, there's some mills with prices going up right now too. So that's one nice thing about having your foot in the door with a bunch of different mills is you can call around, figure out what the prices are doing. You know, one mill drops off and another one's going up, but some mills are affected by the tariffs, and I don't want to get into any of that, but that's just how things are right now. So, let's see here. Yeah, Jay, I think you'd be pretty well set with laying mats across it and pulling logs over those. So, how many trees have I cut in one day? So, back when I was logging with Alan, we were on a job. I remember it like yesterday because for like the next 3 or 4 days I couldn't hang on to a dang chainsaw, and it was just a perfect slope. It wasn't steep. It was real gradual, real long, and it was marked pretty like really heavy. And I cut 83 trees in that day. I blew up my 462 that day, and I got stuck running my 661 the rest of that day. It was 83 trees and 348 logs. And the next day when we got to work, I told Alan, I'm like, dude, I cannot hang on to my chainsaw. My hands hurt so bad. But yeah, we were trying to push to get the job done because there were some bad storms coming, and I think we had like 40,000 feet left to cut on there, and it was like a 250,000 foot sail. So we were just trying to hammer the job out, and you know, we started, the sun was still coming up, and by the time we got done, the sun was about down. But that was I still remember that day like yesterday. You know, Alan, he didn't push me at all. He pretty much kept cheering me on, and yeah, I remember it like yesterday, and heck, that was 4 years ago or so. But well, I'm gonna get this marked out here. I'll be willing to answer more questions when the time comes here. Wow. It's always sad to see when big mills and companies that ran for a while close down. You're welcome, Shane. There's definitely room for more loggers. Actually, compared to back in the day, there's not enough loggers, and especially young people. There's not a lot of young people getting into this kind of work. I'm 33, and I don't know if I've ever had anyone younger approach me about working with me, but yeah, there's not enough, as far as I'm concerned, especially this area here, there's not a lot of loggers, and there's always room for more. Hello, Sebastian. Oh, you're from Sweden. Huh, that's pretty cool. Larry. Maybe in a little while I'd consider hiring someone. You know, I'm still a little nervous about hiring someone after losing my friend to the logging accident. And it's hard mentally, especially if I'm the one skidding. You go out of the woods and you're not sure, you're not there to make sure the person's okay. Um, Eventually, I think what I would want to do though is I want to do, chainsaw safety felling courses, and just have groups of people come in so I can teach them that way. And I'm not quite ready for that yet neither. I mean, there's still stuff I want to learn before I teach that, because uh, as far as I'm concerned, anything in the logging industry, you can learn new stuff every day. And another thing I really want to do too is, get a whole group of loggers together and, just come out in the woods like this. We can talk, we can cut some trees, we can teach each other, different tips and tricks, and what to look out for and what to do when you're dealing with different pressures. And yeah, so eventually at some point I would like to do some sort of training for new cutters, even people that want to learn more that are veteran cutters, loggers. So I don't buy my own jobs or cut for a mill, John. I cut for a set rate, and that's what I've always done for the landowners. We always get pay tabs, so that way I can show the landowner what I got paid for the sale and what they get paid for the sale, and that keeps everything up to par between me and the landowner. So being trustworthy and being truthful makes a big difference in this industry. Since I've been talking about Alan so much too, I'll give you guys a little insight on him. I was actually working on a video for that, but I figured since I've been talking about him, I'd just tell you guys a little about him. But the first time I actually, met him, I cut some ash for my friend, and I didn't know of any mills then, and the only person I knew was a friend of mine who knew a logger, which turned out to be Alan. So he told me, he's like, yeah, just push the logs up, pile them up, and then we'll have Alan come over and X out the ones that they don't want to take. And Alan came over, looked at my logs, and he asked about me cutting with him at some point. He asked my buddy's friend, and I was like, sure, I'll go cut for him. And that's kind of how everything started. I was real green then. I didn't really like. I took the game of logging courses 1 and 2, but I didn't really know what I was in for. But the first day, I felt like I ran a marathon up a mountain and down the other side of the mountain. And after that, I was hooked on it. I loved it, and I loved working with him. The guy was a great teacher. He had a ton of patience for teaching. So there's some people out there, they don't really have the patience for teaching, and I can't really blame them. I mean, there's teachers and there's not teachers. So, but he took his time with me. He taught me a ton. He'd come up to me. He's like, "Hey, you cut that right there. It's gonna take your face off." He's like, "I'll show you how to deal with it." So I 90% of the stuff I know from logging is all from him. I spent a lot of time watching him run a skidder, and he helped me out a lot with the bore cutting as well. It was always funny. We used to pick on him a little bit because he always ran a 24-inch heavy bar, and most of his stumps by the time he got done cutting were always crooked like this. But safest guy I knew in the woods, and he was brilliant as well. He had his own little machine shop, and he was working on making a 8-wheel drive bunching, like a little bunching buggy for the wet days, like today. 8-wheel drive. It had articulating it's articulated with the walking beams, so the tracks he's going to put on it can walk up over everything. And unfortunately, he never got far enough into it to finish it. And you know, we had a Cat 501 harvester as well, and prior to him modifying the head on it, he could cut up to a 20-inch tree as long as the bell wasn't really big. And after that, after he modified it, he could cut up to like a 24-inch tree. But man, it's a little bit about Alan. I've had a ton of fun working with him. Learned so much. It was just a huge blessing to have the chance to work with him. And I'd do it all over again if I could. But let's see what else you guys have to say here. Hi, Greg. So Greg here, he's the one that did that work to Husqvarna 372 I ran in my last video I put up. Heck of a good friend. Yeah, Larry, I agree with you. It's very, very hard to get your foot in the logging industry. And if it wasn't for Alan, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So it's one thing that you should try looking for in your area is try finding a crew that's looking to hire someone that has a good reputation. Alan had a very good reputation around our neck of the woods, and it's very easy to find the ones that don't. So just make sure if you do want to get into this industry and you want to work with someone, make sure that they have a good reputation and they do really good work. Yes, Alan would always do the dirty work, and there was multiple times too, you know, me and him would look at something and just be like, yeah, it's too dangerous for the both of us, and we simply wouldn't do it. So there was times to walk away, and that's one thing that I have learned from him is you're never a coward from walking away from something that could kill you. And just I don't know. I mean, just so you guys know, what happened to Alan was I'm gonna flip you guys around here for a second. If this is the tree, if this was the last tree he cut, his skidder was parked like more in this area here. Actually, no, it was more like over here. And what happened was he cut this tree, and I think he was walking back to the skidder, and he was probably about 30-40 feet away from the tree. And just like, do you guys see this dead hemlock right here? I mean, it's the same situation. Just he drove the skidder past a dead ash, and when he was going back to the skidder, that dead ash uprooted and ended up clocking him in the top of the head, unfortunately. But he never seen it coming, I don't think. It wasn't anywhere near the tree he cut. It was just a freak accident. But it was just for you guys that are wondering, so. But I have time for a couple more questions, and my phone's gonna die here in about 10 minutes. All right, I'll buzz this tree up real quick and I'll check back in. Hey Zach, log prices are always kind of funny. They always they go up, down, all around. I'd say up until this past week here, they've been about average. You'll never see cherry as high as it used to be back in the day. And when you tell people what cherry prices are now, they get pretty shell shocked. So, but you're not going to see cherry anywhere above $2 a foot anymore unless it veneers, but I could be wrong too. So you never know the timber industry. But thank you, Larry. And I'm gonna get scooting as well because my phone's about to die. So I hope you guys all have a blessed day. And thank you for watching. And remember, always love your neighbors. Help each other out when you can. And that's pretty much it.